This is the Cliff Yates Show. Personal growth, motivation, inspiration, and philosophies for a great life.
Hey, everybody, you are in the right place for sure today. I got a great guest with me today. Hey, we're all about the same kind of mission, having a positive impact on other people's lives. And there's no greater joy. And he's been in NLP like I have been, maybe he even more. And what a great and interesting background he has and a lot to share. So you're going to get a lot out of today's conversation. I know I am. Let's bring him right on. Anthony Quo, thanks for joining us, brother.
Thanks for having me on. I'm really excited to talk about transformation, making changes in people's lives, and it's all good stuff.
Yeah, I'm really interested. I read in your bio, I've been there as a member of the audience, but you actually played in Carnegie Hall in a recital on a piano, or?
I did, yes, on the piano. Both of my parents are Juilliard trained musicians.
Wow.
My mom was like a prodigy growing up. Like, I think she was performing internationally since she was 12 years old. And to this day, she's still practicing, performing, teaching. And so you can imagine there's an element, I think, of just talent that was passed down.
Yeah.
But then also I had world-class instruction through my parents.
Right.
And so, yeah, when I was 17 years old, I performed in Carnegie Hall. I had my own recital. And, you know, the thing about this is like, it was like the most confusing thing to me in the world because I was really good. I could do it. And on one sense, it was a very fulfilling, like satisfying experience to be applauded.
Yeah.
But everything it took to get there, I really didn't enjoy that much. Like practicing, the music itself was like not really, it didn't click for me the same way that it did for my mom. Whereas what I really wanted to be doing was swimming with the swim team and hanging out with my friends. And, part of it was just being a teenager.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But also, I like this. This is the foundation of honestly what I teach today is that there's a really, really big difference between being good at something and having a skill versus actually enjoying it.
Right. Boy, you're right on there. Yeah, it's one thing you're really good at that, but does that really feed your soul just because you're good at that? And maybe it's not really your calling or the choice that you would make to be. Yeah, fulfillment is it's a weird. And I find that the definition, and you probably find this too, being in the NLP field, that we get most fulfilled when we're making progress towards a worthwhile goal to us, though. You're kind of saying, right? It's got to be to us worthwhile.
Exactly. It has to come from internally. And I think this is where I got in trouble, and a lot of people get in trouble, is when we pursue goals that aren't really ours to begin with.
Yes.
We may not even be conscious of that, right? It's like very well-intentioned templates that have been put in front of us by parents, teachers, mentors, whoever.
Yeah.
But if it's not aligned with our own, it's not going to feel that great.
Yeah, and I've been trying to tap into that myself because once I got into, I kind of got rid of my limiting beliefs. I'm always want to be a player in the games. Like it's hard for me to just go to the theater, or if I go to a Broadway show, I'm thinking instead of just enjoying the show, I should be up there doing that. I think I should be in the show, right? I could do that. And then I always have to remind myself, okay, I can do that, but am I willing, or do I want to pay the price to get there, right?
Yeah, totally. There is a really common question that people ask. It's what they're kind of trained to ask, which is like, what am I passionate about?
Right.
And that's a useful question, but I think it's very limited in its usefulness because, as you're alluding to, a much more useful question is, am I willing to pay the price? Am I willing to do what it takes to get there, right? Because I like just as much as the next person being up on stage and everyone like telling me how awesome I am.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And at the same time, like after that recital at Carnegie, that was the last time I performed because I was not willing to put in the practice.
Right.
And I had much more exciting things for me to spend my time doing.
Yeah. But you know what? I think you and I are off when we think actually a lot of people don't want to be on stage or they're so afraid to do it, right?
That's
Because,
true. That's true also.
you know, when I did stand up comedy for 30 plus years, you know, people like, oh, how do you get in front of a crowd? I would have people ask me that. They were like, you know, detectives in the sheriff's department who kicked in doors and faced gunfire. And they were like, how do you get in front of people and talk? I'm thinking, look what you do. How can, you know, nothing bad can happen to you. I mean, but we kind of take it for granted, right? That that's a natural thing that you would enjoy. But some people, they really do fear that speaking in public.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's speaking in public or more about being seen.
Being seen, that's so, yeah, right.
Yeah, and
They
I mean,
kind of want to
I've
be anonymous, right? People really kind of enjoy the anonymity of whatever they're doing.
yeah, and I mean, I had to I've been working on that for myself too. Like I as they say that starting your own business is the biggest exercise in personal development there is. And I
Yeah,
didn't fully believe this until I actually got into business and I was kind of hit in the face. I was like, oh, I have to look in the mirror real hard
yeah, yeah, yeah.
to- in order to accomplish what I want to accomplish. Um, and it was interesting because I was very, very confident when I was in the corporate world with presenting. I had no problem with public speaking, presenting my ideas in a structured, compelling form, speaking at conferences, no big deal. But the
Right.
second it came to speaking about myself and my journey,
Uh,
and I was the subject matter as opposed to KPIs and figures and whatever. All of a sudden, I did not know what to say. And I felt that stage fright that I thought I had trained out of myself by, you know, being a piano performer as a teenager.
right.
All of a sudden it showed up again. And I was like, what is happening? And
Yeah,
I
yeah.
realized that it was a lot about my fear of being seen for like revealing this new layer of myself, this deeper, truer layer of myself. And I had to work on
Right.
that.
I think there's something that goes along with that in that first of all, people resonate better with the story of you, so they really want to connect with you. So that is better. But yet for us, if you're like, I assume if you're doing, you know, you're focusing when you're doing your recital on, you know, this material that you're presenting, you know, and you're solid in your belief in that and what it stands for. Like, but yet when we start to, all of a sudden we're not audience focused, right? We become self focused. And so, man, that creates a real problem when we want to connect with our own story and get those principles across because we kind of have to be looking at ourselves a little bit as, yeah, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think what is the difference with the piano stuff is that I was kind of not really presenting myself, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I was presenting the accomplishment and the achievement. Uh,
Ah, right.
yeah, and again, like the same way I make the distinction between there's a difference between having a skill versus actually uh, enjoying it. There's also a big difference between an accomplishment and the process it takes to get there.
Yeah.
And that is the process is what I find is much more important to be engaged with because that is going to take up the vast majority of the time and energy. And if you're not aligned with that, you're going to have a hard time. But if you are, it's going to feel like play.
Yeah, exactly. I would, God, I would even, if I was coaching myself, maybe you do this yourself, I would, the biggest lesson I had to learn when I was disgruntled in my career and then I tried to look outside and I was going to go in another direction. Then all of a sudden, you know, I went into real estate and I got all of a sudden my people skills. And when I started to become better, then all of a sudden my other career became better. When I changed, everything else changed for me. But one of the keys was learning to enjoy what you do while you pursue what you want, right? So even though this is not what you're meant to do or you're not going to be here forever, but if you learn to enjoy that and you can get something out of what can I learn from this while I'm here, even though I'm not going, this is not my end route, right? Do you kind of coach on that at all?
Absolutely. And I totally resonate with that story of how, when you went into real estate, sounds like while you were still in your
Police
career.
career. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I have a similar story where I was, still in corporate, still doing marketing and analytics. Um, and my job then was to basically translate, like I was the go-between between like the really like statistical data
Oh,
people and the marketing and business people.
yes.
Um,
Oh, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
was the go-between, and I was really good at it. I enjoyed it, but also it wasn't that fulfilling. And so on a whim, I was a lonely single dude, and I kind of just broken up with my long-term girlfriend. I signed up for this training program to become a relationship coach. I
Oh
had
my
no
God.
intention of becoming
Yeah.
a relationship coach. I was just like, this is going to be an interesting thing to do. I
Yeah.
want to have some kind of a side gig,
Yeah.
just to, like, take me out of the monotony, right? And a very surprising thing happened, which was that my job performance, just as you're saying, my job performance significantly improved through this skill
Yeah.
of being with people and noticing the intricacies of relating, um, and it actually led me in a weird way to what I'm doing now, because I realized actually my favorite part of the job wasn't even about the job description or any of the technical skills I was building. It was about the relationships.
Yeah. I like what resonates with me with that is now I found three stories that came that goes along with that. It's like you went into that not with the goal of actually pursuing that particular thing. Like I pursued becoming a sergeant on the sheriff's department, not because I wanted to be a leader or, I went into it for the money thinking it was going to be a horrid job. And then all of a sudden it became one of the most fulfilling things
Hmm.
leading this group of people that, and I had an ability and more, I guess, authority to have a positive impact on them. But, I didn't go into it for that reason, but in the end, it turned out to be a good thing. And I had another story to go along with it, but I forgot. But I think that's, you know, so, oh, I know what it was because I'm reading this book. Have you heard of this book called, and because you're from New York, maybe you'll know, it's called Unreasonable Hospitality.
Uh, I haven't read it, but I can
You
guess.
know of
So
it.
tell me.
Yeah. The guy was part of a restaurant called 11 Madison, and they
Oh yeah.
became, and like you said, you're the go-between the data people and the marketing people. And so he found himself between the corporate and the service part of the restaurant. Kind of resonates to what you were saying. So, in other words, he would notice in the restaurant that the bartender, there was a big beautiful pot of plants at the end of the bar, right? So the bartender could not see some of those patrons. So he couldn't be that responsive because he couldn't tell when they were ready for another drink. So, of course, the manager took it upon himself to move that, and now the bartender could be more efficient. And, of course, he was reprimanded. Hey, you can't. Corporate puts that plant there for this reason, aesthetically. And yet, so he had to be the go-between between the corporate view and the service view. It kind of goes to what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great story. I remember there's another apocryphal story about 11 Madison Park, about like when uh, there were these tourists at dining there, and they were like,
Yeah,
"Oh, we've done everything in New York. We've had these amazing things, but you know what I haven't had? I haven't had a Nathan's hot dog from a cart or
that's
Hebrew
right.
National or whatever,
Yep.
right?" And then
I
like a
love it.
waiter overheard it, and they like sent somebody out to a hot dog cart, brought it back, of course, like chopped up and plated all Michelin star.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, and it was,
Unreasonable
I guess that, yeah,
hospitality,
and
right?
I remember that story. The chef was like, how am I going to present this hot dog in a way that, you know what I mean? It was, but thinking in those ways, just because those people, even though the food's great, they may not remember the food specific, but they're going to remember that experience. It's going to be a
Yeah,
significant emotional experience for them. And
yeah.
so creating that moment, right? That's kind of what life is about, creating moments, even in our personal life. So if you can do that in your business life as well as your personal life, that leads to fulfillment right there, right?
Yes, exactly. And you're speaking to something that's very, very important in what I do when I help people with their careers. It's like career is, believe it or not, a primarily emotional experience,
Yeah.
right? We may think about it in terms of salary and title and skills and promotions and whatever,
Yeah.
but the day-to-day experience of it is emotional, right? So what is the emotional arc of your day? Is it, oh, it's Sunday night and I am absolutely dreading going to bed because it means when I wake up, it'll be Monday morning. I have to drag myself into the office.
Yeah.
Or is it I get to wake up,
That right. Yeah.
right? And then it becomes an active question. How can we create that feeling of excitement and engagement? And I want to show up. And oh, by the way, how I am naturally is appreciated.
Yeah, and you know what, people, and hopefully they get this out of it. You can create that. You do not have to be just drifting along. You actually are empowered, or you can empower yourself to do that. Self-talk, right, is so big on that, right? Because like you said, if you start saying, tomorrow I get to go to work, man, because it's going to provide me the opportunity to, even if you're in a bad place, wow, I get to go to work tomorrow in a place that I hate because this is really going to give me leverage to go where I really want to go. I'm not going to be complacent because I'm in such a horrible place, but while I'm there, I'm going to use this opportunity because I can learn some things from this business, maybe of what not to do, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like to say that career satisfaction is not any one moment, right? A lot of people think that it's like, oh, when I get this promotion, when I get this title, when I get the salary, then I'll be happy. And sure, that can help, but what really is career satisfaction is a choice you make over and over and over and over and over again, right? It's a consistent thing that's a lot more subtle. It's a lot less sexy than the big promotions or the big splashy moments. It's, okay, I'm noticing I'm not happy. What would I like to do about it? What would I like to notice about this? What am I learning about myself that like, this is why I'm unhappy, or this is what's making me mad. Also, why am I staying here, right? I tell this to everyone who comes through, when I'm having my first meeting with them. I was like, look, if you're still in this job, then, and you're talking to me, then it's not black and white, because something is bad enough that you're taking the time and money and energy to speak to someone like me.
Yeah.
Also, something is good enough that you haven't just rage quit.
That's
something
right.
Is keeping you there, right? So we need to respect both sides of that equation. And that's the first step, is to acknowledge exactly and very accurately acknowledge where you are without sugarcoating and also without like doom and glooming it.
Yeah, man, that is so true. And it's okay. Like you said, you notice, okay, I'm not happy about, and you know what I like? Yeah, right. We don't achieve to be happy. We happily achieve, right? So get happy, then achieve, because achievement is not it shouldn't be conditional. Your happiness shouldn't be conditional on the achievement. Your happiness maybe should be conditional on the pursuit of that. And whether we achieve it or not, right? Jim Rohn said, set a goal to become a millionaire, not for the money, but for what you will become in achieving it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It's hard to get people to buy into that because, it's just, but if they will, they have power, personal power.
Yeah, and it is, it's especially hard when you're in a particularly bad situation and you're like burning out. And maybe there's a like abusive boss or something like that. In those situations, it's very difficult to kind of rise above it, if you will. But also, this is fuel for the fire, right?
That's right.
One of my bosses that I really admired had the saying that people are moved by either desperation or inspiration. Ideally, a mixture of both.
Correct. Yeah. And and sometimes maybe like once in my case was maybe you in that victim mentality, you think you're being abused by this boss, and maybe you're not. It could be a delusion and it's not happening at all. I had a supervisor here. I've been on the department for over 10 years, wrote reports, always fly right through. And now this supervisor he was redlining all my reports. He was kicking them all back for corrections, right? This son of a bitch, he really doesn't like me, this guy's targeting me, giving me a hard time. I know how to write these reports, and this word doesn't have to be changed. It means, I was like, this guy. But of course, I was going through my personal growth. I think I'm going to find more out about this guy, So, but in my delusions, I'm thinking this guy, look what he does to give me a hard time. So I decided I was out in the field and I decided I'm going to meet with him for dinner. I sent him an invitation. I was a deputy at the time and he was a sergeant, and so he said, yeah, I'll meet you over there. So now he's meeting me. So now I'm having dinner with this guy and I'm finding out this guy, we have a lot in common, fishing, and he grew up in an area near me, and what a nice guy. And then I find out, he has a master's degree in English, and that's his thing. His thing is grammar, and so when he's correcting reports, that's his thing. He wasn't targeting me, but that's words and grammar were his thing, and he was writing his corrections. But here I had in my mind that it was a personal assault, and it wasn't the case at all. I was living in that delusion, but I found out that was in my own creation. Have you come across that kind of stinking thinking?
This guy, oh my God.
Yeah,
right?
This guy's after me. Yeah.
Yeah. But you know what I really like about this story is that this is really a story about emotional intelligence, right? And a really big pillar of emotional intelligence is recognizing that not everyone sees the world the same way that you do.
Right, exactly.
And when you can start to get curious about it, and be able to see things through their point of view, then you can start to collaborate. Then you can take advantage of each other's strengths. You can cover for each other's weaknesses. And so when I work with people who are either in leadership positions and they're like, my team isn't doing this or whatever, or they're in your position as the deputy, like my boss is up my ass and whatever, right?
Yeah.
Then it is a lot about how can we understand what's happening, and there is of course a strong chance that the person is just being abusive,
right? Yeah,
but there also is a possibility that there's just a misunderstanding. I do this personality assessment. It's called the Berkman. And it's a really powerful tool because it reveals on a lot of dimensions how you show up in the world and also what you expect back from the world, which can be very different things. This can be confusing for people. We're like, I am what you get, but then, a little bit more pejoratively, it might be like, well, you can dish it, but you can't take it, right?
Right, yeah.
That's somebody who has one presentation, but then they actually have a need that's different. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's just how people are built. And there's this one that always gets me, where it's called, or it used to be called esteem. I forget what it's called now. But it's basically, it has to do with like, how does somebody code respect? How do you treat people when you're trying to respect them? And there's a spectrum, right? And on one end of the spectrum, it's all about diplomacy. And on the other end of the spectrum, it's all about directness.
Right.
So you can imagine somebody who's going to be more diplomatic is going to use a lot of words. They're going to beat around the bush a bit, and they're going to like kind of soften the message. Whereas the guy who's direct is going to be like, hey man, you got some food in your teeth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And both people think they're being respectful. But if there's like a miscommunication or a mismatch here, it could be like, hey, you're so rude, you pointed out the wrinkle in my shirt or the food in my teeth or the error on my website or whatever.
Right.
And on the other on flip it the other way, somebody who is direct in their needs but is being met with somebody being diplomatic, like, man, would this guy get to the point already? Like, you were wasting my time.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's so true. I'm assuming you can let me know if your coaching is NLP based, but neuro linguistic programming. But a lot of that has to do with, like you said, when you approach a situation, you can start to look at it from three different points of view: my personal view, their view, and then from an outside view. And if you do that in your career, that can really give you a different perspective on how the situation is really playing out. And it kind of goes to, right, the map is not the territory. We'll become more accurate as to what is actually happening here, right?
Yeah, and exactly. And yeah, I do use NLP quite heavily in my work.
Yeah.
It's, I may not be doing the change procedures every single session, but it's just embedded into the frame of how I work, right? Like
Right.
setting up, career change is essentially a giant piece of change work. It's
Right.
transformation, personal transformation,
Yeah.
and it is almost always an identity level thing, right?
Yeah.
Because we just as a society place so much identity weight into what we do, and I mean, we spend so much time in our career, so of
Yeah.
course. And so then it becomes really important. What is your present state? What about it is unwanted? How can we set up your desired state? What
Yeah.
is the in NLP we call ecology,
Oh.
or like what is the valuable thing you'd have to give up in order to get to the desired state, and how can we fix it up so that either you don't have to give it up, or how can we arrange for that to be protected because it's important.
Well, I like that you're asking questions because I really buy into the fact that our brain is so efficient and will always look for an answer. All you have to do is change your questions because if you say,
Hmm.
why am I so screwed up? Your brain is not going to argue with you. It's going to try to look for that answer. But if you say,
Yeah,
what's good about this? How can I make this a positive experience? Your brain's going to look for that answer. So change questions, change response, right?
yeah, my clients get annoyed with me sometimes because they're like, just tell me what to do, man.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I can't do that, but I can help you ask the questions
Yes.
to
Yeah.
figure it out yourself.
Yeah. It's funny because I'm going through this. Actually, I just completed this Primal Health Coaching Institute thing, and part of it is the coaching pillar of it. And they talk about, well, some people are going to come. Just bottom line, tell me what to eat. Just tell me, I'm just get to what I need to eat and what not to eat, and I'll do it.
Hmm.
And, no, it's more, we need to find out, what's your main health goal and what you think you can do because it's kind of a client led coaching model. Is that what you kind of use
Yeah,
yourself?
100%,
Yeah.
100%. I a lot of people come to me and they're like, "Hey, help me look at my resume and how do I market myself?"
Ah,
And I
yes.
have to be like, Hold on, right? Because what are we actually optimizing for?" And then
That's right.
and then
Yeah.
find out what is the destination you're actually looking for, and then
Right.
what will having that do for you, right? That's like,
Yeah.
a very typical NLP question. What will having that do for you? And then we end up all the way back at the beginning, which is what do you need in order to thrive? Like what
Yeah.
what piece is not being met for you that you're trying to meet? What piece do you want that you're currently not
Yeah.
getting? And then we can build from there. So we go from what do you need in order to thrive to where can you meet that to how can you get there?
That's so important because it's like, and this is how I'm always thinking of metaphors, right? Because so it's like, well, I'm sailing from Los Angeles to Catalina. So, what kind of oar should I have? Listen, you should have an
Depends,
oar.
right?
You should have an oar in case you break down. However, this is not the most important thing right now. The kind of oar. Let's focus on, do you have a chart? And other aspects of your vessel. That's you're focusing on something that's really not the main part of what we're after
Yeah.
right here. If you're trying to get healthy and some of the negative things in your life are BBs and some are shotgun, let's work on getting rid of the shotgun blast first. Then we'll work on the BBs, right? Because the BBs
Right.
aren't really hurting you that bad. Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I guess it's a triage of importance, right? Of what you should be
Mhm.
working on right now.
Yeah, and also an assessment of like what is realistic, right? Because a lot of people, and myself included, I remember being really unhappy in my career, and I was so miserable, but I also had no sense of what my desired outcome would be.
Yeah,
That the only thing I could think of was moving to New Zealand and becoming a sheep farmer.
right. Hey, that sounds cool, man.
Total escapism, and I was like, my parents talked me off that ledge, and part of me
Yeah.
like regrets a little bit, not just
Talk
falling
me off
for it.
that ledge. I like that. So, hey, that metaphor is pretty important. How they looked at it. We're talking you
Right?
down, right?
Yeah. But like all my brain was capable of creating in that moment was like a complete eject button, just escape.
Yeah,
Um, and asking someone, what do you want to do next, is such a big question. It's
yeah,
actually really overwhelming, right?
yeah,
Um, and so part of what I help people do is like, well, for example, when you sail from Los Angeles to Catalina, it's not just one straight line. You have waypoints,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that's right. Waypoints. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have your waypoints, you have your, like little milestones that are way more achievable. I don't know if you like, have ports of call where you take on more fuel and supplies and whatever,
Yeah.
but that's what we do, right? Like
Right.
I don't, it is unreasonable to expect anybody to go from I have no clue what I want all the way to I'm already in my new job.
Yeah.
So it's much more about like, okay, what are the smaller achievable missions we can accomplish so
Yes.
that you're not overwhelmed, and so you don't also misplace a mission that's like 3 months down the line and tackle it prematurely when because that's going to trip you up.
Not only that, you get wins along the way, right? If you wait
Exactly.
too long,
Yeah.
at the end of the year, I'm going to have a win 10 months down the road. No, what can we kind of, what can we go after this month that's going to give us a win right now along that
Yeah.
way, right? So we can have all these
Or even
wins. Yeah.
or even every week.
Yeah.
There are little wins every single week that I work with someone. There's like clear, achievable. It could be as simple as like, hey, tell me a story about a time you lost track of time, and
Yeah.
then next we interpret that. Why did you lose track of time? What got you into that flow state, right? Because those stories are so full of information,
Yeah.
and then little by little, you can translate that to, oh, this is what I'd like to do with my life.
Yeah. And you know what? Like you said, and if you do find the right thing or one right thing, it doesn't have to always be one thing, or it can change. It can be a new chapter. But you notice if you're getting into that flow state, like you said. For instance, I like videotaping things and editing them, adding music, doing trends. I like doing that, so I
Hmm.
can do that in 4 hours go by. Now, other people they find no value in doing that, and they have no interest because I've talked to people and they go, I wouldn't want to do that.
Yeah, this is why really good video editors exist, right?
Yeah. Like I find it fun where I'm looking at videos and I'm looking, okay, wow, you know what? I like that they put, an accent light in the back, or I like, you know what? I like when people put a color. I went to Home Depot and got like a $4 blue light and put it on my back wall here
Yeah,
to
I
give
see
a little,
that.
yeah. And I go, I like that, but I like doing those things, right? So I don't know. I love dealing with sound but that's like a flow state for me when I start doing that. If I can do that and also produce content that has a positive impact, and no greater joy, right?
Yeah, well, that right there is a hallmark of a satisfying career. Like if you can
Yeah.
find that flow state and that joy, then that's it, man.
Yeah.
I'm lucky that I've arranged to create that for myself, because when I sit with clients and when I sit with my groups and my community, I the time just goes by.
Yeah.
I just
Really.
love sitting down with people, connecting with them, and there's a little bit of like I love the art of like pulling out people's secrets,
Yeah.
and like helping them unpack and explore their inner worlds, and helping people like that. That to me,
Yeah.
there's nothing more fulfilling. And
No, there's nothing
I
more
know people
fulfilling.
are like, how could you spend that many hours on Zoom? And I'm like, sure, a little bit of Zoom fatigue sets in, but like I love it.
Once you know, as you already do know, and I try to tell, once you know that you can't help anybody without helping yourself, right? I can't
Mhm.
have an impact on you without impacting myself. So it's a little bit of a selfish kind of a loop of, positive impact. If I positively impact you, I've also done it to myself. I've heard these things over again. I've thought about them over again. And I might have reread something over again. And so it's a positive loop.
Yeah, and you know what's funny? I hear this a lot that there's almost like people feel almost a little guilty for enjoying themselves, and
Right.
I'm like that is such a foreign thought to me. And I mean, I get where it comes from, but in my mind, in our careers or whatever you choose to do as your vocation, your occupation, whatever, these are the best hours and years of your life,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And we put in so much energy into your 9 to 5, your like just the most vital time of your life.
Yeah.
It is an investment, right? And
Yes.
so I go to, well, you should get something for your investment,
That's right. Yeah.
right? And sure, it can come in the form of money and stability and whatever, but I also think that for my time, for my energy, I would like to be enjoying myself. And
Yeah, that's
I,
right.
I think that
Yeah.
that would be really great for everyone too. I think the world would be a better place if people spent the vast majority of their waking hours happy doing what they're doing.
Yes. I think that would be a good thing. I learned from Tony Robbins, right? Because you know how we are when we get in a position where we can do it and help people, and we maybe have a position where we can pick up the tab per se, because we really get enjoyment out of doing that for someone. So I learned, because on the other end of it, we're always, when someone else tries to do it, we try to say no. And then I realized I'm not going to rob them of the gift of giving that I enjoy
Yeah.
doing. So I let people do that now.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's so good. There's a,
Yeah.
I just went out to dinner and there was a little bit of that, like, oh, let me get it, let me get it. I'm like,
Yeah.
why don't you treat me this time? I'll treat you next
That's
time. I
right.
mean, it's not like we're not seeing each other regularly anyway, right?
Yeah. And
But
sometimes
you
I'll
know what?
take sometimes I'll take the time, not to interrupt you, but I just thought of it. So what I'll do is I'll go to the bathroom and I just grab that server and I give her my card right here.
Yeah,
It's on me. And then of course they want to pick up the tab, and I knew this was
yeah,
coming. And they're like, "Where's the bill?" And they're like, "Oh, it's already been taken care of." What? So I like getting
yeah.
the
I
jump
mean,
on people.
it's a fun game. It's a fun
It is
game.
a
I,
fun
I,
game.
I like playing it with my family, especially because there's a whole like, oh no, why you?
Yeah.
It's a competition between my brother and I who's going to pick up the tab.
Isn't it
But
fun
this
that
whole,
if you're in an environment where you're trying to outserve each other, isn't that the best thing there is?
I
I
mean,
mean,
it's fun. It's
yeah,
fun, and it's also really a blessing to be in a position where you can, right?
that's correct. Yeah.
Um, but this whole thing about helping, right? Helping, being able to help, or to, whether it's picking up the tab or hooking someone up with a connection, that is a gift,
It
right?
is a gift. Yeah.
Just as we're talking about it, and that is something that I frequently have to help my clients see and understand, because one of the biggest ways to navigate career is through networking, right?
Yeah.
Through other people. And the second I say that word networking, people get all like, oh, gross, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to do it. And I mean, first of all, there's a reason for it. It's because people tend to treat it very transactionally. So I teach something that I call relational networking,
That's right.
where you don't make it a one-off, like, hey, hook me up. Okay, cool. I'm gonna dump you to the side now. That's gross. Don't do that. Um, but in a relationship, like in an ongoing relationship, it feels really good to help someone for no other reason than you just like and trust this person.
That's right.
And
And that's
so
a
I always,
natural thing. Yeah. And it's funny
yeah,
because on the sheriff's department, it would be considered, oh man, that guy plays golf. That's why he gets promoted. And this guy, he gets there. He's a kiss ass. He's a brown noser. And I said, listen, you got to change the way you have to change it to this. You're developing rapport with people who can do things for you. That's what you
yeah,
want to be doing. These people that have to promote people, it's kind of hard for them when they get a list of names. But if they say, oh, Anthony, I know him. He's a good, oh, yeah, I like him. So they want to help people that they know.
yeah. There's nothing more powerful than rapport. There's a reason why in NLP training, the first thing they teach is rapport.
Yeah,
You can't
exactly.
do anything without rapport.
Absolutely, man. Rapport, so important. Yeah. And it's such a great skill that you can play with every single day, whether it's just going to the grocery store and just noticing people's, right? We're always communicating whether you think you are or not. So just picking up on people's body language and practicing reading other people and maybe communicating back, kind of mirroring how they're, and seeing how sometimes how effective that is. It's just like a perishable skill that you can hone right on a daily basis.
Yeah, yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, you can do it with your family, right? If you start noticing how they say words, listen to this, or I heard, so
Yeah.
they're kind of they have an auditory kind of bias, and then you
Mhm.
can present them with ideas. Hey, listen to this idea about the family get together. This might sound good to you, right? They don't even know that you're kind of keen in on their modalities, right? But it's fun to do it.
It really is. I remember being at the beginning stages of my NLP journey, and it's like when you give a man a hammer, everything
Yeah,
looks like a
and a
nail.
nail. Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
And I was like, this is how you're using language, and so okay, you have a visual bias. It's visual into auditory. So I'm going to be like, so look here, just listen to this for a second.
Yeah, yeah. And it's something I think maybe initially you do study it and you focus on that in a rote way, but eventually it becomes an instinctive way of communicating
It
with
really
people that you're
does.
not really thinking about it anymore.
No, no. But it's
Yeah.
funny. Some of my friends who are not really into this stuff, they'll be like, "Are you NLPing me?" I'm like, "I don't know, man. This is just my natural
Yeah.
lens."
I would tell them, listen, I NLP myself because the part of getting better every day in every way is not only learning, first I have to learn how to better communicate with me, then I can do it better with you. So, but most of the people that I get frustrated by this, and I have to respect that people should be able to do what they want to do. They're not all driven for achievement like I guess I am, or I enjoy it. Because like I found a guy on the internet and he's actually kind of coaching boomers into their next phase of career that, hey, you're probably going to live another 20 years, so you can actually do other things. But I mean, I have so many people that they're still in the flip phone phase of their mentality. You know what I mean? I get frustrated by it. I guess maybe I'm an early adopter of things, and so I enjoy learning new things. But a lot of people in my age group don't really do that.
Hmm. I mean, you're speaking to something important of like,
Yeah,
as a practitioner, as a coach, you can really only push someone, you know, that much more beyond what they actually want for themselves.
right.
But in NLP we have that useful tool of like pace lead, right?
Yeah,
Where I mean, this is where, as you know, just getting into the practitioner stuff, like it really is about your rapport with yourself, your comfort
yeah.
with yourself, and your ability to get not only into rapport with the person and yourself, but also with the situation. Um, and sometimes I I have that on a fairly regular basis when I see people like, giving up on themselves or trading down
Yeah,
or like giving into what I perceive as limiting beliefs, but for them it's just reality.
that's right.
I
Yeah,
have to take
yeah.
a moment to be like, deep breath, okay, this is just what is happening.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, call in comedy we say calling the room, calling to actually what's happening, right? This
Mhm.
is what's happening. Call it. Everybody else is seeing this. When you're doing comedy, right? Everybody else is seeing this. You just call attention to it. It's like if
Mhm.
you're doing a comedy routine, of course it's disruptive. The waitress just dropped her whole set of dishes, You can either forget it and keep going, or you can draw attention to it because everybody else has just heard it, and
Yeah.
then you can make light of it, and then you're just calling the room, they call it, and then people laugh because we're all seeing the same thing. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
so that's so
There,
important.
there
Like
really is power to speaking and drawing attention to the truth that no one else is saying.
yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, I think. Man, people. So, are you mostly coaching individuals or businesses, small business corporations? What is your focus, and who can we send to you?
I work mainly with individuals
Great, great.
who are unhappy in their jobs. Maybe you know why, maybe you don't know why,
Yeah,
and maybe you know what you want, maybe you don't.
right.
But basically, if you're looking for a greater experience of career satisfaction, I'm your guy, right? I will maybe help you with the resume, but that's not where we start.
No.
We will start with what is your what do you actually need on the inside to thrive?
What website could they go to check you out? I love your website. And I'm gonna have all the links and everywhere.
You can find me on untamedcareer.com.
Untamedcareer.com. Really go to Anthony Quo because I'm telling you for a couple of reasons. Number one, if you're unhappy in your job, be so happy about that because now you got leverage on yourself to make the change. And number two, it doesn't even matter what it costs. I spent $600 on an original Tony Robbins seminar. Let me tell you what, on some of the things that led to me, I think it's probably responsible for a return on investment of about maybe $800,000. I should have paid 10 times $600 for that weekend. And so the cost in investing in yourself, you're not going to be spending enough. And before we go, you're living in New York. Are you in Manhattan?
I am in Manhattan.
Do you love it?
I do. I absolutely do. I'm like 1 block away from Central Park. Great restaurants, great shows. I mean,
Oh my God. Okay, I'm going to look you up. My wife and I, we both have a timeshare at the Hilton at 6th and 53rd, one of the original. Okay, and we go there.
I'll get some chicken and rice with you.
Please. I don't know what kind of food you want. We love to go to Victor's Cafe between 6th and 7th on 50. I'm going to say it's 52nd Street. It's a Cuban restaurant.
Oh yeah, no, the Caribbean food here is great.
Unbelievable.
You're in Florida now, so it's probably better there.
It is good, but we just love, and I was so happy that, because originally I wanted to go to NYPD in the early 80s. And so, I grew up in upstate. And so when my wife and I went to New York, I didn't know how, she loves the energy. She's born in Cuba. So I'm glad that she loves it. So we go every year for the past 25 years. We go there for at least 5-6 nights because we love Broadway shows. So we love the location that we have there. And it's just awesome, man. So we're probably close to you, and we love that Hilton. Yeah,
it's a pretty cool location, and the reason why I said chicken and rice is because there's that famous halal cart that is stationed right at 53rd.
Right there at the corner, 53rd and 6th. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And there's always a line. There's always like a 20-minute line.
2 in the morning, there's a line.
There's another cart, catty corner, that is the same company, same recipe, same everything. No line there, but everyone likes to wait for the other one.
Yeah. Oh my God, it's so cool, man. So I'll look you up, man. We'll get together, even if it's just for a coffee at the corner, man. It'll be great. So
fantastic.
Yeah, I'm gonna send people your way. We just love New York, man. I don't. We just love being on the subway and going using this. And now you don't even need a Metro card. You can just tap your credit card. Is that cool?
Tap your phone.
Now you can tap your phone. Oh my God, that is so great. I don't know. We love, and it's funny because I'll say 98% of the people that I worked with or grew up around, they just, New York, why would you go there? I just don't get it, right? Just okay. We come back so energized, right? But we go in the wintertime, usually on the week of December 10th, right there, because we had some friends get married who went with us, and
this time in the city is so great.
It's just so good. And so, but after about 5 or 6 nights, we're ready to come home. So it's kind of a quick hit, and then we come home. Yeah.
I'm the other way, where like I like to get out of the city for 5 or 6 days at a time, and afterwards
then come back. Yeah. Probably this year we'll come back. Usually we during COVID we didn't, but we were going to the U.S. Open so we would go from our upstate.
That's great too.
So easy to get to. The subway stops right there. You walk out and you're right there at the grounds, man. It's so easy. Yeah. So great, Anthony. So great talking with you, my brother. And now we're coming to the end of our time, but let's do this again. I love talking about this stuff. I get excited about it just because it empowers people, man. And I love to hand people the keys, man. You can change course at any time to whatever you want to do in this great country. And while we have these freedoms, man, take the keys, open the door, right?
Oh yeah.
Hell yeah. Life should be hell yeah. That's right. We should put it. All right, my brother. I hang around for a little debriefing, but I'm going to send people your way. And if you're, it doesn't really matter where you are, right? Around the world, you coach like this, right?
That's right. I see people all over North America and in Europe as well. Asian time zones, a little funny, but
yeah,
we can make it work.
We can make it work, everybody. There's a way to make it happen, and that's probably going to be part of the coaching. So check out Anthony. He might help you get to where you want to get to. All right, hang around, my brother. If you haven't already, subscribed to the show, either in YouTube or on the podcast platforms. It tells the computer people are interacting, and they show it to more people. You can play a part in having a positive impact on other people. All right, I'm out of here. Cliff Yates, I love you.